Everyone online just says eat more protein if you want to get shredded and build muscle. Well, as a men's transformation coach for over 15 years, I really wanted to put that theory to the test. So I ate 200 grams of protein every single day for 30 days. And in this video, I'm breaking down the 5 biggest things that happen to your body. And in the end, I'll tell you if eating 200 grams a day is worth it or is it just a waste of your time and money. Let's get into it. Okay, guys, quick context here first. So my overall goal when doing this challenge was I was either trying to maintain my muscle mass or maybe even just trying to lose a little bit of body fat. And beforehand, I was probably having about 150 grams of protein per day. And I bumped up to 200 grams, like I said, for 30 days straight. Now that that's out of the way, the very first thing that I noticed in my body was I was always full. So this can be good or bad, depending on what kind of phase you're doing. But a lot of times, like it definitely helped reduce my hunger cravings. Now in a fat loss phase, like you might be thinking, that's fantastic, that's great. But at the same time, when I did bump up to this protein, I kind of felt pretty gross a lot of the times because it was a lot of chicken, protein powder, Greek yogurt, just kind of low calorie, high protein foods. And again, it was fantastic for minimizing my hunger cravings. But like I said, I was trying to almost like maintain my weight. So I almost had to force feed calories in. And it was just very difficult because obviously when the protein is high, typically speaking, the hunger cravings are going to go down. So in a muscle building phase, like if you're trying to build muscle, that's something to really consider because obviously your goal is to consume more calories. And if you're having a shitload of protein, like 200 grams per day, it's going to make it a lot challenging to do. But at fat loss phase, this can actually work really well for you, especially if you're someone who gets hunger cravings. So if you do get those hunger cravings, bump your protein and it should help a lot in terms of you feel more full and satiated. Okay, the second thing. And remember, guys, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to my body at the very end and if I will recommend you doing it or not. So stick around for it. But the second thing I really noticed when bumping up to 200 grams per day was I felt a lot more lethargic. Now, this can be a lot more of a negative compared to the last one, right? And again, we kind of talked about being more full can be a good thing if hunger cravings is a bit of an issue for you. But now being more lethargic, this is obviously not a great thing because I just felt a lot more tired because maybe some of you guys know carbs are basically your main source of energy. And of course, if we basically up our protein, we have to decrease our carbs and fats to compensate, right? Assuming our calories are at the same number. So my training definitely did take a bit of a drop, nothing too drastic, but I did notice I just didn't have the same energy and I felt a little more tired compared to when I had more carbohydrates. So if you're in a fat loss phase, this is something to really consider because when you cut calories, and again, maybe you guys know this, but calories are basically a form of energy. And if you decrease your calories, you decrease your energy. And if you have lower carbs on top of it, because you're having a shitload of protein, you can imagine that your energy levels are probably going to drop a little bit more. So something to consider for sure if you do want to have an extreme amount of protein. Okay, the third thing. Did you guys watch the extra innings late game Jays and Dodgers, by the way? They went 18 innings. I stayed up there basically all of it. Slept about 3.5 hours. I'm grinding through right now. So I'm a little bit tired. It was a tough morning and a tough day all around, but we're going to move on. So the third thing I noticed when I bumped my protein up to 200 grams per day was it's definitely a lot of time, effort, and commitment. Now, ironically enough, like one of my clients this morning, he said something to me that I never really even considered, but obviously it makes a lot of sense. He said protein is expensive, like that part I knew, but he also said it takes a lot of time and commitment to cook those protein foods. And this makes sense, right? Because when you're having like those good protein sources, like whether that's like fish, chicken, beef, eggs, whatever it might be, like you actually have to spend a lot of time to make those foods. Obviously, protein powder and maybe Greek yogurt, it's a lot more convenient compared to, let's say you have more higher carbohydrate options. If you're cooking pasta, rice, maybe quinoa, whatever it is, it's a lot more convenient to make those foods and a lot faster to make also, right? Where protein, it's definitely a lot more expensive, of course, because good quality food, and it does just take a little more time to make and then plan your meals. So for me, like it was a bit of a struggle trying to get 200 grams at times. And a big thing that I did, and again, you can kind of steal this if you do want to increase your protein intake, is you want to try to front load your protein mostly in the morning. So what I basically tried to do was I tried to get about 100 to 125 grams of protein done by lunch. That way, I know I have a meat dinner, maybe a snack, and something else, and I hit my 200 grams. Because if you're just trying to wing it and you're trying to hope for the best when it comes to hitting 200 grams per day, you're going to fail 10 out of 10 times. So if you guys do decide to adapt the strategy, you do got to make sure you plan it out. Try to front load it in the morning. And the more prepared and the more structured you are, then you have a far better chance of hitting the 200 grams. But overall, what I'm trying to say in this point is, guys, it definitely takes a lot more time, effort, and commitment to hit that 200 grams consistently. Okay, the fourth thing that I notice is my energy and recovery. Now, one negative, one positive. And remember, we're going to talk about the grand finale in just the next point here. So stay tuned for that. And I'll tell you exactly if I recommend this for you or not. But I kind of really talked about my energy a little bit, saying that it kind of dropped a little bit because the carbohydrates were lower and the protein was higher. So I don't want to elaborate too much on that again. But I will say the recovery was actually a bit of a positive for me. So the energy was a negative, but the recovery was a positive. And you might be thinking, like, why is that the case? Well, if you guys work out and you're lifting weights, most of you, or maybe some of you know, protein basically is going to help repair your muscle tissue. So if your protein's pretty high, you're typically going to wake up the next day maybe not feeling quite as sore. And that's what I really notice. Now, recovery can mean a bunch of different things, right? Like obviously like your sleep, mobility, step count, there's a bunch of different things, even protein, vitamins, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of isolating the protein and, keeping everything else pretty standardized, I can definitely say that my body was not as sore. And again, keep in mind, I was going about 150 grams of protein, which is a decent amount for my weight. I'm only about 170, maybe 175, let's say soaking wet. And I bumped about 50 more grams, and I still even noticed a bit of a difference. So something to consider as well, if you're like lower protein and you jump even higher, if you do that, I can almost guarantee you won't feel as sore in terms of your recovery. But again, at the other end, I did talk about that your energy levels might drop and you might feel a little bit more lethargic. All right, guys, the grand reveal. So what did it do to my body? Should you be doing it? Is it worth it? How many grams of protein should you be having optimally? I'm going to answer that for you right now in this segment. The very first thing I'll tell you though, and what I noticed with my body was, and honestly speaking, guys, I really didn't notice that much of a difference, any difference at all. Now, again, though, something to consider and something you got to keep in mind. I was already at about 150 grams of protein per day. Again, for my size, about 170, 175, that's a pretty decent amount, right? And I only bumped up 50 grams per day. If you're at, let's say, 70 grams per day and you bump up to like, let's say even 150, 170, that's a pretty big difference, right? And you probably will get a lot better changes in your body. So you have to really ask yourself, like, where are you in your training cycle and your lifestyle when it comes to overall fitness and nutrition? Now, is it worth it? That's the big question here, guys, right? So we kind of talked about it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of commitment. I would say it's not worth it to have an obnoxious amount of protein. So again, I'm about 170, like I said. So that's about 1.2, maybe 1.3 grams of protein per pound. You definitely don't need that much protein. So how much, you might be thinking, like, how much protein should I be having per day? I'm a big believer, guys, in having balance with fitness, nutrition, lifestyle. And if you're just driving back a shitload of protein every single day, you're going to feel disgusting. It's going to be overwhelming. And again, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So a very general rule of thumb that I like to recommend for most guys, and if you do this, you're going to see some insane results, assuming it's coupled with obviously your workouts and all that sort of stuff, is take your body weight in pounds and times by roughly 0.8. So let's say you're 200 pounds, for example, you times by 0.8, then you want to have about 160 grams of protein. Now you might be thinking like, hey, okay, I'm 275 pounds. If I times by 0.8, that's over 200 grams, or at least I think it is. I'm not a mathematician at the top of my head. If you're over 250, guys, a very general rule of thumb is have just about 175 grams of protein, or body weight in pounds times about 0.6 to even 0.7. Right? Because if you're 300 grams and you're times by 0.8, that's a lot of protein, and you probably don't need that much, especially if you're at a higher body weight. So is it worth it? I wouldn't say so, guys. Keep your protein high. Don't stress yourself about it, and don't like, eat a shitload of chicken. The more protein you have, the better it is to a certain threshold, but I don't think you need to take it to the extreme that I did for 30 days, which is the main point of this video. Now, if you guys want to join a free community where I teach you basically everything in terms of how to get shredded without giving your lifestyle, I'll leave it in the comments below our free group community. Join it before it starts being paid, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Jays game 4 tonight. If you're a Jays fan, let me know in the comments below. I'm stressed out. I'm tired. I only slept 3 hours, but I'm going to power through, and let's hope the boys can somehow get it done against LA. Thanks. I just realized, guys, sorry, I'm uploading this on this Saturday, so the series will probably be done by then. But we'll see you guys soon, and this kind of disregarded everything I said about the Jays in this video. I'm an idiot. Talk to you soon, guys.